The Republican Party and you are enabling him. You're all cowards and you're spineless.
Donald Trump won the election in 2016.
Trump's military war is creating backlash from all corners, including striking and consistent rebukes from the Pope, as well as constituents showing up at GOP town halls upset about this war and Trump's military draft.
I would simply say, once again, what I said in the Urbi et Orbi message on Sunday, asking all people of goodwill to search always for peace and not violence, to reject war, especially a war which many people have said is an unjust war, which is continuing to escalate.
The very first American Pope is not shying away from standing up for what he believes against Trump, who's posting pictures of himself as Jesus, and Hegseth, who's quoting from Pope fiction instead of the actual Bible. Now, the Pope, despite threats by Trump and the cancellation even of $11 million that was going to Catholic charities in the United States, and their attempt to somehow be the image of religion, well, the Pope is not backing down. Trump had even said that the Pope was appointed because of Trump, which in itself is blasphemy because the Catholic Church believes that the Holy Spirit selects the Pope. So again, Trump is making himself God. Well, the Pope sent out a message saying, woe to those who manipulate religion and the very name of God for their own military, economic, and political gain, dragging that which is sacred into darkness and filth. The Pope, perhaps the most visible spiritual leader in the world, going head to head against Trump and Hegseth and the GOP, who frankly has cloaked themselves in religion to do a lot of bad things for a long time.
I think you have a good heart, but shame on you for your support of Donald Trump, his business partners, and Netanyahu, who put America last.
Just one example, does he at least get props for taking the heat? Are you surprised that virtually no Republicans have gone out and done town halls?
Not surprised at all. Why would you want somebody to come and yell at you all the time? They saw what happened even in swing or Republican districts back in January or earlier when they tried to do those. So now all of a sudden they're just not doing them. I do give him props for showing up and taking it. He's got to. I mean, he's in the fight of his life.
Right.
You know, the problem for Mike Lawler, and I know him personally and I like him on a personal level, but the problem for Mike Lawler is that he is going out there on cable news and constantly getting involved in national issues where he's forced to defend Donald Trump. That is not a great strategy when you're running in a district in suburban New York right now.
Trump's war against Iran is so deeply popular even within the GOP. The New York Times said that this war was, quote, a worst-case political scenario for members of the GOP in the run-up to November's midterm elections, in which the party is fighting to maintain its minuscule majority. This is a worst-case political scenario. And how do you know that? Well, only one Republican congressman or woman even dared hold a town hall in their recent spring recess. Just one. And that town hall was a disaster for the Republican. His Congressman Lauer, he was drowned out by protesters within his town hall, very upset about this war and what is happening, because we all see the disaster that it is. Trump flip-flopping about whether or not it is a war, whether or not it was starting, whether or not it's ending. Talking about the nuclear weapon capability that has changed so many times. It's really clear to everybody that Netanyahu wanted this war. I mean, Netanyahu even went on Fox News and said he wanted this war for 40 years. And finally, Trump listened to him. Yes, Trump was dumb enough to go into a war because somebody told him it was going to be easy and it was a good idea without having any strategy, any plan. And perhaps because he wanted to just undo Obama's deal with Iran, because he always wants to somehow undo all the good that Obama did. Well, this Republican who showed up, he's in a swing district. This is his third time. So that's probably why he showed up, because he knows his seat is on the line because of how unpopular this is, how many seats Democrats have flipped across the country in special elections, states, and mayor's races. His seat is definitely vulnerable. Even the New York Times reporting that even supporters of him, so people who came and liked him and tried to couch their criticism as gently as possible and said how he's doing all these good things and can't he use his skills to end this war quickly. The fact of the matter is this war is so deeply unpopular among Americans, Republicans, Democrats, MAGA podcasters, influencers, and regular people. Very concerned about the price to oil, to fertilizer. Democrats certainly concerned about the fact that we killed school children and still have not even really apologized for that. Never mind, looked at our own military to find out how that happened and how people face consequences to make sure that doesn't happen again. Well, the GOP, this is a political disaster for them.
Starting in December, all men between the ages of 18 and 25 will be automatically registered for the military draft.
If they do that, then the war is going to fail really quickly because I just don't think the American people are willing to saddle up their sons and daughters for the draft. If they could get away with it, I think they'd be tempted to do it because it'd be like all options on the table, right? Like if they say like, if we get so far sucked into this thing, kind of like we did in the Iraq War, where it's like we can only win by applying a massive amount of ground troops. Iran is so big, we can't do it with the standing military that we have right now, as big as it is. We would have to do a draft. Now, I think a negative to a downside to the all-volunteer force we've had is that it's been very easy to deploy us, and most Americans don't really know or care that we've been deployed because we volunteered for it. We have professional soldiers. I think a draft is actually a good check on that. I think compulsory service. I think if there was more people right now who they had to go do 2 years in the military and they were like, oh crap, my 2 years are going to involve this Iran deployment. I think a lot more people in America, and that was felt by the entire American population, that every able-bodied man and woman was eligible for a 2-year period to go serve. Wars like this wouldn't happen, in my opinion.
That is a very interesting point of view that I have not thought about.
Yeah. As much as I don't like the idea of conscripting people or having mandatory service, because I liked the professional warrior class that we were a part of. I like serving with volunteers. Problem with volunteers is, man, we'll just keep going back, and you'll create a professional warrior class. And then we'll, like I did, we'll intermarry and we'll live in our tight communities. Everybody I know is a veteran. And so we have an insular community, and we're the only ones that experience the war, experience the loss, and we keep going back over and over again. Whereas if you spread out that burden to the entire country, it makes it almost impossible to keep us at war for a prolonged period. The only reason the Vietnam War ended is because there was the people basically revolted against it because of the draft. And that's a big reason why I think after Vietnam, they were like, we can't draft people anymore. Let's create a professional military.
Damn. I have not thought about it like that.
This automatic registration for the military draft, so it is ready if and when Trump decides to call it up, because Carolyn Leavitt and Trump have not ruled that out. And Trump seems to be threatening war after war, saying already Cuba is next and Greenland and Canada should be the 51st state. Well, there's some legal theorists out there thinking that perhaps the Supreme Court can save us. And if you've been on MeidasTouch long enough, you know that's probably not the case. But let's get into it. Their theory is that if you look at history, there's really no historical justification for a draft. It's not in the Constitution. They didn't think of it and necessarily prescribe it in the Constitution. And why not? Because they're talking about things such as war. Instead, they talk about the militia and how states govern it, the National Guard. So there is this theory that they didn't want there to be a standing army because that was a colonial imperialist view, and that they did not want this fledgling democracy to be so similar to England and have a king's army that can go in. And it is true that the Supreme Court now looks to history in order to basically undo our civil rights, looking to history to overturn Roe, looking to history to actually strengthen the Second Amendment for people who think that the Constitution, when it was referring to armed militias, had to do with a person in their home having a gun. But this Supreme Court is very much governed by the Heritage Foundation, who put them in place. And yes, although they look to history as a justification to overturn the civil rights that many people have come to believe our country allows for, and part of the reason why they're so grateful to be Americans, I do not see them using the consistent theory of history to somehow make it more difficult for the commander-in-chief to call up men and women to serve in the army. So perhaps, although that legal theory is interesting, we shouldn't count on it. We should instead go out and vote in November.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.